Ember RV just put out a bulletin that all the owners need to know about. Let's talk about it right now. Hey, the channel is growing, but please don't forget to subscribe. It really helps out the channel, and you can show your support by subscribing and maybe liking a video. On December 9th, Ember released a bulletin on the Ember Recreational Vehicles Owners Group Facebook page. This notice had some key points that everyone needs to know about, especially if they have the Max Solar package or lithium batteries on board. And there are 4 points that I'm going to discuss in this video. 1. It turns out the battery disconnect is not a true battery disconnect. There are some things that are left connected even when you turn the battery disconnect off. 2. You're going to need to manually disconnect your lithium-ion batteries from the system when you're winterizing or storing your RV for the longer term. 3. If you're in the very cold parts of the country, like up north, then your batteries are in jeopardy if you're leaving them in your RV. I'm going to talk about that at the end. And number 4, I'm going to repeat this many times throughout this video. Anytime you're driving your trailer with your battery disconnect on, meaning if you have a true battery disconnect with everything disconnected, then that also means your trailer breakaway safety switch is also not functioning. And that's very important. I'm going to talk about that. Yes, I tend to go on and on in these videos, but I do break it up into chapters below, so feel free to skip around to the areas that most interest you, or just watch the video and here we go. Now here's the notice that was posted on December 9th in the Facebook group. I'm going to read it to you verbatim. After consultation with Battleborn, owners winterizing their Battleborn batteries do not need to fully remove their batteries from the unit. However, to properly winterize it, it is required to disconnect the batteries. Owners need to disconnect a negative lead at the battery bank. Setting the battery disconnect switch to off does not shut off everything in the unit. Ember products are designed to allow the solar power system to charge the batteries even when the battery disconnect switch is in the off position. Remember to take necessary safety precautions anytime you're dealing with the electrical systems. Here are the proper steps for winterizing your Battleborn batteries. Charge the battery or battery bank above 50%. Turn the battery disconnect to the off position, then disconnect a battery lead from the battery bank and leave the batteries in the unit. In areas where it's difficult to get to the batteries, we recommend removing the negative lead from the battery to the battery monitor shunt, see in the image below. If you feel uncomfortable completing these steps, please contact a professional for assistance. Your batteries are backed by an industry-leading 10-year warranty. Now I'm going to return to a couple of points that I stated in the beginning. 1, your battery disconnect is not a battery disconnect. They've just clearly stated it there. It does not fully disconnect the batteries from the trailer system. 2, is you're going to have to manually disconnect these lithium batteries from the system in some way or another. They offer a couple of different ways that you can do it. And of course, like I said before, anytime you're fully disconnecting the batteries from the trailer, you're also disconnecting the trailer breakaway safety system that makes it so that if your trailer breaks away from your truck, you will have a brake engage on the trailer, and that brake engagement only works if there's a battery on the trailer that works. So if you disconnect your battery and God forbid your trailer disconnects from your truck, your trailer brakes will not engage because they're not engaged with the battery. The issue with me is that I can't actually go in under my couch and disconnect battery cables and such once I deliver my trailer to its storage area. I take it to a farm where a farmer loads it on with his skid steer and puts it into a barn. So I don't really have access to the trailer when it's stored. I can hit the disconnect when I park it, which is what I did last time, then he goes and puts it in the barn. But for me, I don't have the ability to reach in there and disconnect all of the wiring. More importantly, it's a really tight fit. One of my friends from the Ember forums, and who's also an Ember owner, made this video that highlights how difficult it is, at least in our 19-foot models, to get to the battery system while it's installed underneath the couch. Take a look at this video.
Let's go on the hunt for stuff. So the couch is maxed up, which is just enough to put my head under. This should be a negative, but I don't know which one it is. Does it go to ground? Just can't see. I can just put my finger on it. But if it's a center, then that could mean one battery would still be hooked up. If I take it apart here, it would only be disconnecting one battery. Going under this 1-inch thing, possibly a shunt back there, which means since this is only 4 inches clearance, of course I can take this plywood out, but even all these stiff wires and my Truma Combi and the delicate wires of the inverter makes it quite the iffy thing. I believe that is my shunt back there, but I'm going to have to remove the couch to get in there. And there's a lot of electronics up against the front wall that's trapped, as you can see, barely by the inverter, and my batteries are underneath the inverter. This is max solar, 2 each 100 amp hour batteries.
So again, in my specific situation, I'm going to have to disassemble the couch just to get to that battery location. And I'll need to do this anytime I'm storing the RV for more than a month. It's being stored indoors, so it's not going to get a charge from the sun. And they've stated in that very same thread that anytime you're storing it for more than a month, that you should do these winterizing steps for the battery and disconnect them. Having to go and dig out my couch and deal with unhooking batteries every time I need to park my RV was never part of my plan. I was pleased to see that it came with a battery disconnect switch. Otherwise, I would have had one installed when I purchased it. It's important to me to be able to fully disconnect the batteries when I park it. And as I keep saying, if I did do this at another location before I took it to my storage area, I'd be driving to this farm, to this storage area, without a trailer breakaway switch in place, because I would have to go and rip everything apart and disconnect the batteries and then drive it to storage. Likewise, when I take it out of storage, I'm going to have to drive it to my home or someplace where I can get in there and reconnect all the batteries. This just isn't going to work for me. So here's my plan. My plan is, well, let's install a second trailer disconnect, one that truly is in line with the batteries and disconnects the batteries from the whole system. Why would I go in there and do it with a wrench every time when I can just go and do it once with a trailer disconnect system? I drew this up on a piece of paper and sent it in to the Ember folks to let them know this is what I was thinking and to bring to them the concerns that I had, as well as other people who are storing their RVs where they can't functionally go work on them where they store them. That means folks like me will have to drive the RV with the batteries disconnected to the storage location. Many storage locations don't allow you to do any maintenance. And although, sure, you can sneak in and disconnect some batteries, it's a violation of all the storage rules for all the places I've stored my RVs. And I like to stay compliant. I'd like to make this easy. And again, I'm back to the idea of why would I physically disconnect a negative cable when I could just hook up once a battery disconnect? So that's what I'm going to do. Now, Ember has replied that they're looking into this. They weren't able to immediately endorse the solution, and I get it. They have to run it through their engineering team. They've got to give me a corporate response, and that's a little different than just your average RV engineer looking at the problem and saying, here's the solution. So I haven't heard back from them on them blessing the problem or not, and I don't believe they're going to be covering it under warranty. But I have talked to my RV dealership, Woody's, who's always very cooperative. And I asked them for a quote. I sent them the paperwork of what Ember was saying, what my idea was. And they said, sure, we can do a battery disconnect. In fact, they have one that's the exact same model that I have pictured in my little diagram. And they have it in stock. So as soon as January 14th rolls along, I'm going to be taking my trailer to Woody's RV and having my Ember authorized dealer install this disconnect. I'm getting it done by an Ember authorized dealer. I'm not doing it myself. And it's, a spec part here that's being provided by the parts department for the Ember authorized dealer. So I feel like I have good safe harbor when it comes to the warranty, and it feels like this is the best solution. Now, I'm not sure where I'm going to install that. I'd love to hear from you in the comments, especially if you're familiar with the 191 missile, the 191 MSL that I have. I'm thinking of maybe they should install it in the front storage area where all the 3 battery monitors are. That seems to be very close to where they'll be wiring it, and that makes sense. They could do it on the other side where the other battery disconnect is. If that makes sense to them, I'm okay with that as well. Or they could even install it right there under the couch for all I care. If that's easy enough to do, if I just have to lift the couch and hit a switch, well, that's not asking a lot. And so that may be an idea. But really, it seems to me down there where all the battery monitoring systems are, seems to be the best place to install it. And again, it's very close to where the batteries are installed. So it should make for a very short run, cable run to the disconnect. That's what I'm thinking. But I want to hear from you. I want to hear, where do you think I should have it installed physically? That would be the best place on the 191 MSL. And stay tuned. Let's see how the dealer does this and what they do and how easy this is. As far as the cost, it wasn't that expensive. All in with an hour and a half of labor and the part, it's going to be around just under $300 in Canadian or just under $200 in US dollars. Sure, I wish they would cover it under warranty, but let's face it, this is a small amount of money to pay relative to the huge amount of money that I've spent on this trailer just to get it. So if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. I'd rather have it done right than worry about whether or not they're paying for it or I'm paying for it. I understand why Ember did this bypass, so that the idea is that when you park it, you can let it charge up and trickle charge off the sun. But the reality is, if you call it a battery disconnect, I think most people would assume it's completely disconnecting the batteries from the system. And the fact that they don't allow for that causes a shortcoming here. You can even see on the Battleborn website where they emphasize the importance of using battery disconnect switches in your Battleborn systems. So finally, I said I would address this cold issue. With the cold front coming down right now into the States and Canada, this is a bigger issue than ever. They've stated repeatedly, and they stated in that communique, that you don't have to remove your Battleborn lithium batteries from your trailer. But it is documented by many people's experience and on the Battleborn website and communications people have had with Battleborn. If you're going to be in temperatures that's negative 26 degrees Celsius or negative 15 degrees Fahrenheit, then you need to protect your batteries in some way. Just leaving them in those temperatures or colder can in fact jeopardize the batteries. Again, this is straight from Battleborn's website. I just looked it up before this video to make sure that the numbers were correct, and that's the numbers that they say. So you can somehow throw a space heater in your battery or some other way protect those batteries so that they stay above negative 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Hey, 10 years or longer before now, when I lived back in California, before I moved to Canada, I wouldn't have thought those temperatures were a concern whatsoever. But as you can see on the Ember forums, there are many people who live in Alberta, up here in the prairies, who are taking it up north even further. They're right now, their RVs are in negative 20, negative 30, negative 40 degree temperatures, Celsius or Fahrenheit. Doesn't matter at those temperatures. And there's the potential that those batteries are effectively going to get damaged, or not going to be working in an ideal fashion anymore. So all these battery issues are certainly a headache for a lot of the Ember owners. The way the batteries are installed, I almost wish we just put them in the front storage area where the original lead acid batteries were supposed to be installed, because all these problems would seem to go away if we could just access the batteries old-fashioned style. They need to be removed anyway if it's going to be those kinds of cold temperatures. So not really sure of the logic at all, but I get it. They're trying to figure it all out. I'm sure there's a lot of unanticipated consequences of engineering decisions they made that those of us who've already bought in are going to have to eventually pay the price on. Again, don't get an Ember if you don't want to have first adopter issues. It's still a first adopter trailer. And so when you're early in as a first adopter, you often need to deal with issues that people down the road are not going to have to deal with. But if you're up for it and you're up for the adventure and you really like the Ember, well then heck, it's a cool RV. I'm still happy I got it. So that covers everything I wanted to talk about in this video. I'm going to say it one more time, that however you set up your battery disconnect, whatever you're doing with your batteries, I know some people with Embers like to turn their battery disconnect off when they're traveling to preserve the battery power when they're going down the road in between stops. But bear in mind that this may very well be disabling your trailer breakaway switch. And that is an important safety function. It is most of the time legally required in most states and provinces, and it's just something you don't want to go without. It's at least a couple of times a year, usually at a brake check area at the top of a big mountain pass. I'll pull over, my wife and I will pull the pin out of that trailer breakaway switch and give it a test, make sure it's still working, because we know that that's going to be a real important part. Trailers do break away. They do have freak accidents where they separate from a truck. And when it does, you want those trailer brakes to engage immediately. And that's not the time that you want to be saying, boy, I wish I didn't set the trailer disconnect on, as your trailer goes down a mountain pass, plowing into other cars. And God knows what can happen in that situation. So please be safe out there. Figure out your solution. I'd love to hear how you're solving this problem. I can't wait to hear more from Ember on how they're officially solving this problem. I'm hoping all the new models that are putting out have a true disconnect built right into it, and they're still not pushing models off the floor with this flaw, because this flaw is going to haunt every Max Solar Package owner going forward, or anyone with a lithium battery. So best of luck out there. Let me hear your comments below. Try to be nice out there. It's Christmas time. See everybody. Have a happy holiday.